Hello, you amazing people. Welcome back to RXMemes. Today we're going to be diving into r/letsnotmeet for another creepy story. Here are some of my favorite answers from yesterday's question, which was, are you a dog person, a cat person, or another type of animal person? I had some tarantula people and axolotl people. Lots of people are all animal people, and I love that because I am too. Since today's video is going up pretty late, I want to know, are you an early morning person or a late night owl? When I was growing up, I used to be a way early morning person, and the older I get, the later I stay up, because now I'm allowed. My mom can't say anything about it now. And with that being said, let's get into r/letsnotmeet. A pastor with a creepy fetish, posted by user/mango girl. This story extends from 8th grade middle school to my freshman year in college. I'm 24 years old now, so this must have begun in 2008. I was raised in a Korean household with strong Christian beliefs. Every summer and winter, there would be a youth retreat where all the teens in our church would go to one big joint retreat with counselors and teenagers from churches in and out of state. I met my best friend Hannah there. She was from Philly and had a pastor who was white who we called Pastor Allen. I'm only stating that he's white because it ties into his weird fetish, and these retreats were predominantly Korean. After these retreats, everyone would add each other on Facebook and keep in touch. I remember a day or two after the '08 summer retreat, Pastor Allen would often reach out and ask how my walk with God was going since the retreat, and if I ever needed someone to speak to, I could always confide in him. This didn't alarm me at the time because counselors would keep in touch all the time. I always kept our conversations brief considering the fact that I was shy and timid. Over the years, I'd always see Pastor Allen at retreats and was friendly with him. Nothing strange happened other than his persistence with keeping in touch with me on Facebook after retreats. I slowly stopped talking to him and eventually we didn't speak at all. This is where it all starts to get weird. One day after our summer retreat in 2011, I got a friend request from a woman named Sumi Ko. I noticed we had a lot of mutual friends from the retreat, so I assumed she was a counselor there. She messaged me immediately after I accepted the request. Her and I became quickly acquainted. At the time, I was 15 and she was everything I needed in an older sister. Although we never met, I let my naivete get to me and confided in her about my teenage girl troubles. After months in, I remember walking into church and asking one of my youth leaders if they met a Sumiko at the retreat. He said he never heard of her. I asked him if I could check the roster, and he did, only to find out there was no Sumiko on the list. That's when things started to get super eerie for me. I panicked and went home to block Sumi off my Facebook. I saw on her page that the only person who continued to tell her it was nice seeing her was Pastor Allen. No one else from the retreat seemed to really be interacting with her. It all started to freak me out. I blocked her and unfriended Pastor Allen. I remembered no longer attending these church retreats. A few days later, I received an email telling me that Sumi Ko decided to attempt suicide because of me and that the email is coming from the mental hospital she was staying at. They told me it was all my fault. I was a junior in high school, under high amounts of stress from SATs, and I deleted the email because I just wanted to forget about it all and focus on studying. Shortly after, I started to receive really unfriendly anonymous messages on my Tumblr. They would tell me that I was going to burn in hell for eternity if I continued to stray from God. They continued all the way into my senior year in high school. I always deleted and ignored them, or I'd replied sarcastically and laugh at them with my friends. Eventually, the messages faded and I didn't hear much from them anymore. In 2012, I got accepted to a close Christian college and I moved into my dorm. My dorm floor decided to have a little icebreaker meeting to help us get comfortable. I met another Korean girl and we began talking about our similarities in our childhood being raised Korean with Christian parents. I opened up to her about my encounter with Pastor Allen, and midway through the story, I saw her face slowly dropping and getting pale. She told me she had a very similar encounter with a pastor she knew, and that he was also a white man working with the youth in an all-Korean church. I asked where she was from, and she replied with the same state that Pastor Allen was from. She then asked me if the name of the pastor was Pastor Allen. We had the same predator in our lives at the same age. I'm not sure where Pastor Allen is now, but I pray to God he has not harmed any little Korean girls. It's absolutely disgusting. He was borderline 60 years old when I was 14 or 15. It makes me sick knowing people prey on children in the most vulnerable ways. It ruined a lot of my perspective on Christianity as well. It's horrible to take something so spiritual and take advantage of a child with it. So Pastor Allen with a creepy young Asian girl fetish, let's not ever meet again. Freaky hippies camp next to us, posted by user/Makina90. I honestly can't believe I'd forgotten about this. This happened back in the fall of either 2002 or 2003 when I was around 12 or 13 years old near Clinton Lake in Kansas on a Boy Scout campout. I still go backpacking and camping a lot, but this was the last camping trip I remember attending before moving states. We arrived at our campsite on a Friday and planned on staying through Saturday and leaving Sunday morning. I remember us having to set our tents up in the rain Friday evening, but Saturday was sunny and gorgeous. I don't remember every precise detail, but right before we went to our hike that morning, an old van, perhaps a late 70s model, pulled into a campsite within a view of ours. These guys were hippies with a capital H, and that was my first exposure to what weed smells like when some of us asked if a skunk was nearby. They were too far away for us to hear any specific conversations, but even the adult leaders found this to be a funny sight. One of the leaders, I think, went over there to ask that they stop using drugs in front of us or to move campsites. When we got back from our day hike, those hippies were still at the same campsite, and so baked they couldn't play their instruments with any skill. Here's where it got weird. By the time the sun was setting, the group of stoners had completely ditched their hippie attire and had dressed in total goth style. Some had makeup that made their faces unnaturally pale, others had black trench coats on, and they must have had a stereo, because all we could hear over there was grunge metal playing. That night, after we cooked and ate dinner, all the scouts, including myself, headed out into an open area of the campgrounds to play capture the flag. We collectively established the boundaries, which were still pretty close to the group of new goths, but it gave us a different angle of view to their site. I doubt they had any idea we were there, since we played with no flashlights. By this point, the grunge metal had been replaced by this creepy, ominous opera music. I succumbed to curiosity, but I wasn't about to sneak into their campsite. I just crept a little closer to see what they were doing. They had made a large campfire beyond legal limits, and I couldn't see any of the group. On a tree, I saw something that had me initially freaked out, but I figured they were still feeling the weed, and any other drugs they may have taken, for this to be real, and continued to play. I think we only played one game, then retired to our tents. At some point in the middle of the night, all of our adult leaders woke us up and told us quickly and quietly pack up our things, take down our tents, and get back to the bus. As we were packing everything up, we couldn't help but notice the bonfire was still going strong, but the music had stopped and we heard people talking. The tone didn't sound like casual conversation either, but I couldn't hear specific words. I don't know how to describe it. Once everyone and everything was in the bus, the driver got us the hell out of there. The adults were abnormally quiet and the scouts had congregated to the back of the bus. I don't remember if one of us told the adults about those guys, but we knew it had to have been regarding that strange group. A fellow scout from the other CTF team had also tried sneaking into their campsite and saw the same thing I did. Ever since, I'm inclined to think what we saw was real and a reason for us cutting the trip short. Hanging from that tree, he and I saw a decapitated dog and 2 severed human legs. I never learned anything more about that night. I'm just gonna say this because I think OP forgot. Freaky hippies, let's not meet. Guy follows me into my house and stays while I take a nap. Posted by user/tankgirl1996. So this happened a really long time, probably 7 to 8 years ago when I was in high school. I'm sorry if it's a little vague, but it has been a while. I went to this school for smart students who were into the arts, so you encountered a few strange people there. Everyone was a little artsy and all trying to prove how cool and creative we all were. I became friends with 2 people who were having a very casual relationship together. Their names were Charlie and Ness. Not their real names, of course. They eventually ended up splitting up and remained friends. That's when Charlie met a person called Damien. Damien seemed pretty harmless at first. I'd seen him around school. He was a bit of a loner and gave me and Ness a strange vibe, but we figured it must have been us just being judgmental. This guy was a huge stoner. At some point, I had to try to help him find his class and bag, as he was so high he could barely stand. One day, we had finished school and I invited them all over to my house to hang out for the evening. I was within walking distance of the school, so we walked to my home. Damien started making weird comments like, "This isn't your usually route, is it? Do you find this way quicker?" This of course freaked me out a little bit, but I kept my cool, thinking maybe he was just wording stuff strangely. As we arrive at my house, I start showing them around and Damien goes, "Oh, I've been here before." At which point I think we are renting, maybe he knows the previous owners. Boy, was I wrong. He proceeded to tell me that when he first started dating Charlie, he had followed me home one day, snuck into my house, and when I went to take a nap in my room, looked around, got bored, and went home. At first I thought he was joking, But then he proceeded to tell me stuff about the layout of the house, the things in my room, etc., and even the date. I remembered I kept hearing weird noises and thinking it was an old house, just assuming it was nothing. Charlie kept saying how it wasn't a big deal now that we're all friends, and he had done the same to Ness. Ness had no idea and started freaking out too. Apparently, according to him and Charlie, Damien had done it to Ness's brother and a few other people at school. I don't remember what happened next, but I think I faked not feeling well after a while and got them all to leave my house. Since then, I stopped talking to Charlie and Damien. Ness and I would sometimes talk about how disturbing all of that was. Then, a few years later, I had moved high school, mental health reasons, and started going to university. Each day, I would take the bus home from a certain campus as I lived close, and one time I entered the bus and noticed a familiar figure. I thought I was mistaken, but I kept seeing him over and over again. At one point, he even started waving at me and got off at the same stop following me for a while. One day, it all just stopped. I didn't need to go to that campus anymore, and I haven't seen him since. So, hey Damien, please let's never meet again, please. Alright everybody, that's it for today's video. If you do like these Let's Not Meet stories, let me know so I can continue doing them for you. If not, let me know what your favorite is and I'll be glad to do more of those. If you're not already and you enjoyed today's video, I would love for you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I upload. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye!